This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.
When I was first getting started, I was thinking, well, once I'm successful and I've got this great testimonial and this big story of, triumph, then certainly everyone's going to want to, get in business with me. But now, I'm just a newbie and, who wants to get started with me? And, when there's these other, great leaders who have already put millions of dollars on the table. And, nothing could be further from the truth.
Hi, my name is Igor Kheifets, and this is The List Building Lifestyle, the only podcast which delivers cutting-edge conversion strategies from the online trenches straight to your earbuds. Download the transcript of today's episode and all future episodes at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com. I also invite you to grab a free copy of the Wealthy List Builder Survival Guide at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com/survival. And now, once again, it's time to claim your list building lifestyle. Welcome back to another edition of the List Building Lifestyle with your host, Igor Kheifets. And today I got my favorite metalhead, my favorite, sales vet online, Mr. John Lavenia. John, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm your favorite metalhead? That's awesome.
Oh, yeah. I don't have any other metalheads, so you're kind of in your own, a league of your own.
Okay. It was slim pickings then. All right.
So, John, it's the second time you're on the show. The first episode was amazing. We got a tremendous, just feedback was just off the hook. And I think it's one of the highest, the most downloaded episode we have.
Oh, wow.
One of the, it's in the top 5 because of the ridiculous amount of value you share on the call. So given the fact that you are extremely skilled in training other people how to sell and how to market, because that's your profession, right?
Sure.
I wanted to invite you and discuss a topic, a question, which is bugging many of my listeners. And here basically goes something like this. And I got this from a listener the other day. He says that, look, I'm buying traffic. I'm talking to people. I got social media presence. And I often even get, on the phone with people, but it doesn't seem like they're motivated. I mean, they're real people. They ask questions about the business, but I can't really get anyone to join because when it comes to getting them to take action, they just don't seem motivated.
Well, if we could come up with a very systematic way to motivate people that universally worked all the time, we'd all be billionaires, we'd be trillionaires, right? We would have solved every problem of the corporations of the world and of society. I mean, my goodness, if everyone was just motivated, if they only just wanted it like we wanted, if they only just wanted success like we want success. So that's immediately where my brain goes. And so I've sort of pondered that for some time, being in the business of marketing opportunity to people who allegedly want to make more money, right? That's why they respond to the advertisements.
That's a great keyword there, allegedly.
Yeah, right. Allegedly, or sometimes I throw in purportedly. They purportedly want to participate in some sort of enterprise to increase their financial ability, right? That's why we've connected. They responded to the ad. In fact, I wrote about this in it was a more of a pamphlet than a book. It was sort of an ebook called How to Prosper in the New Economy. I wrote this right after my first book in 2008, where I talked about some of the values, the often misunderstood values of the home-based business and network marketing field, which is one where I've operated in for well over a decade. Well, actually a couple of decades, but successful in it for well over a decade. Not in the traditional sense of like multi-level marketing and stuff like that, but more in the top tier direct sales space, which is where I've made millions. But the thing that I noticed was that people would come with their request for more information, and very few people would do anything with the information, regardless of how successful I became. Because when I was first getting started, I was thinking, well, once I'm successful and I've got this great testimonial and this big story of, triumph, then certainly everyone's going to want to, get in business with me. But now, I'm just a newbie and, who wants to get started with me? And, when there's these other, great leaders who have already put millions of dollars on the table. And, nothing could be further from the truth. So here's what I discovered. Number one is that people are either intrinsically motivated by their own goals. In other words, they already have a destination that they've decided for themselves that they want bad enough to get uncomfortable. And in that case, the messenger is someone who can light the path a bit, but still they're already determined for themselves that they're going to walk the path, that they're going to become entrepreneurs, they're going to become successful, and hopefully you can save them some time, and that's why they're looking for opportunities, because they don't want to have to originate the opportunity. I mean, after all, that's what the entire home business profession was based on, was that you get to wear one hat, which is the hat called marketer. Right? You get to man that post. And then other people have done like the product preparation and the legal team and all the logistics that go on behind the scenes, which you don't have an interest or an aptitude for. So we get to be marketers. And quite often, in the space that I performed in, it was sales and marketing, right? So there's a distinction there. And I think a lot of people listening to this right now may identify more with the front end marketing aspect of this. But once we've done the front end marketing, in other words, we've placed advertisements or we've purchased solo ads, or however we're gaining clicks, however we're gaining traffic to the front end of our offer, that's the beginning of the sales conversation. Then the conversation continues with what? Could be a phone call, could be a physical sales meeting, could be videos, email follow-up sequences, etc. That is the sales process. Whether we identify as salespeople or not, we actually are. We're in that business. So make that distinction. But now when it comes to motivating people, here's what I found. If I already had to be like some great leader with some great success story before people started to enroll in my business and participate and do the revenue generating sales, obviously that would cause me to ultimately be successful with those big testimonials. If I had to have the testimonials first, if I had to have the success story first, then I would have never gotten off the ground. No one would ever get off the ground, because no one would ever be able to escape the newbie zone, so to speak. So what I did was I crafted my story. I crafted my reasons why people would want to participate with me prior to me having made any money. And I crafted that based on where I had been and where I'm going. And a lot of this is unspoken, so I don't want to get like mystical or metaphysical with you here. But a lot of this is unspoken, Igor, where I knew for myself that regardless of what this or that prospect did or didn't do, regardless of that, I was going to reach my goals, no matter what. Like I looked at my goals, which I had that self-determined destination, which I mentioned that a lot of people who purportedly want, increase their income, they don't have that destination. They've got maybe a whim or a hope or something. But I had a real goal. I had a real reason to do this. And I wanted it really, really bad. Okay. Because I was miserable, man. I was working a job 80 hours a week. I was having my pay cut 3 times a year. It was not a fun time. And so I had this entrepreneurial drive. And so I knew where I had been, obviously, that we could say is chapter 1 of my story. But then with equal knowledge, listen to the words, with equal knowledge, I knew where I was going. And when I wrote down my goals, nowhere in that goal did it say, if Bob Smith buys my business deal, then I reach the goals. No, Bob Smith was never anywhere on the goal. You get it? It was not personal to the prospect. It was personal to me. And because I developed some vision and some knowingness for what that guaranteed future outcome is for me, it started to shape the way I communicated with people. And those who had ears to hear, which again was the minority, okay, but those who had ears to hear did hear through the words, right, of the email, the video, the hotel meeting, whatever I was doing. Through the words, they heard, here's someone who knows where they're going. Now, I will pose this question to you. Would anyone follow you, any sane person, let me say this, would any sane person follow you or me or your listener or anyone if you didn't have a destination?
Probably not. Yeah, because if you don't have a destination, you don't know where you're going, sort of drifting around. And no one really sticks to a person that drifts. Everybody wants to kind of cling to a person that is aggressively or purposefully moving into some sort of a direction.
There you go. Right. So certainty sells. We can take this right out of The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles, written in 1910, where he talks about how 2 people engaged in the same business can get completely different results. They're even in the same town, but one gets rich, the other remains poor. Why? Because the person who gets rich does things in a certain way. And to do things in a certain way, you must think in a certain way. What is the key word here? The key word is certain. And the definition that we're looking for here is the absence of doubt, right? That's certainty. So the way of certainty, that is what sells. And when those who did have ears to hear, and they were truly motivated intrinsically, I couldn't motivate them, but they said, oh my goodness, here's somebody who's going somewhere, right? That's leadership. We've got a destination, folks. We're going to walk this path. If you'd like to walk with me, here we go. Right? And those people got on that path. And some of them became fabulously successful. But you see, this whole thing is a sorting process. So obviously we get traffic, we get leads, right? That's the purpose of getting traffic, is to build a list. Hence the list building lifestyle show, which I'm talking on right now. So we've got the list. Now we're cultivating that list. And if you think about a funnel, right? This is the funnel process where you go from the public to your leads, right? To your, let's say, level 1 buyers, or, people who are participating with whatever low ticket offer you may have, and then the ascension model, right? And it gets smaller and smaller. If you look at the funnel, you turn it over, it's like a mountain, right? And the mountains always they always get narrower and narrower at the top, right? Ultimately, you've got at the top of the mountain, you've got people like yourself, and you've got other people who have engaged fully, not only as consumers of the offer, but as producers who have duplicated that offer in their own way. They've created their own mountain peak, right? Because we all have unique talents and abilities. And there are people, and I've heard this from people who have gotten started with me in the business opportunity space, where myself and other very good friends were in the same business, the same exact offer. And people said to me, "Oh, John, I'm so glad that you're working with this company. And, I saw this a while ago from this other person, and they just didn't resonate with me and whatever, right? Now I know this other person, and they're really cool too. But there are people that I'm sure think that I'm a rotten bastard. And, I'm so glad that Igor is in this deal now because, that John Lavenia guy, he's rotten. But I love Igor, right? So we're dealing with people, it's the infinite variables, right? There's 7 billion of us on the planet. So back to your original question, how do we motivate people? Well, we be the best version of ourselves that we can be. And then not by just raw promotion or convincing, but more by attraction. We will attract our ideal prospect, and we will be repulsive to our not ideal prospect, which is, by the way, a wonderful time saver. Because if we had to be all things to all people all the time, now you got, and I'm sure you've seen it, and it's in every business, right? Now you've got, you really wanted to close that deal, and now you've got a problem customer, and man, they just drain your time, and oh my goodness, I wish they would have bought from my competition. So it's not like we want every single person to say yes, right? Nor do we want to be vanilla, because then we're just ignored. So I think what we've got to do is first of all, be the leader of ourselves, right? Accept the responsibility and the dominion over whatever message we're putting out. Make sure that that's congruent with who we are and where we know we're going. That will be outrageously attractive to our ideal prospect. It will polarize the public. It will bring the people who are obviously right to work with us. It will bring them closer to us. They'll be a pleasure to work with because they resonate. And then it'll save so much time because you're not going to be attempting to convince people who are never going to buy anything from you anyway. And that's it, right? So it could be just a question of volume, right? Are we doing enough marketing on the front end? But it could also be, and quite often it is, a question of who's doing the marketing. Bigger question. So not just what marketing are we doing enough of it, but who's doing the marketing, because the marketing portion of this whole sales process is just the beginning. People still buy from people. And I know that in our internet age where everything is Snapchats and, twit faces and everything else, I know that there's a lot of ideas about, being able to get instant gratification from some sort of a magical system and being able to automate yourself right out of your own business. And yes, I do agree with automation and putting things on autopilot when they're rote, repetitive, systems or processes that you don't necessarily have to show up for in person. But I will tell you that there has to be someone at the helm originating that message upon the interwebs, right? So the technology is just a via for the communication originated by, yes, a thinking person and received by, yes, another thinking person. So people still buy from people. I don't think that's ever going to change. And so if we can get to the point where we're the most powerful version of ourselves and we put that out into the marketplace, inevitably, we're going to attract some other powerful people. Personal development is the core of all of this. Again, that's not something that you're going to hear at like a, how to get 10 million leads overnight, sort of a seminar or webinar pitch. Okay. But I can tell you that the person who originated that pitch also had to do some personal growth. They weren't just born into internet stardom or something, right? That was something they deliberately created. So where do you fit into all that? You, the listener, where do you fit into all that? And how can you be outrageously attractive to your ideal prospect? So a little bit of a long answer. Igor, what's your next question?
Thank you. So I want to circle back because there's so many great things you've said. Like my favorite is don't be vanilla. That's like I loved it. I'm going to frame this, going to print this out, order a t-shirt. I'm going to do something. So maybe I'm going to tattoo this on my, right arm or something like that, because it's just a beautiful phrase and it kind of sums up in a big way, how to not, screw this business up. Because like you said, people do buy from other people. Now, you said something interesting when you were talking about the certainty, right? Do things in a certain way. Now, it's funny, as a traffic provider, I see this often where you got two marketers, same company, okay, use almost identical squeeze pages, use the exact same video sales letter, and I drive traffic for both from my traffic source, okay? Yet, one of them is killing it, makes dozens of sales. The other guy doesn't make a dime, doesn't make a sale, can't do anything. I mean, I'll even write emails for him, I'll give him my emails, and he still won't convert anything. And it's interesting because oftentimes the person that can't achieve success, even if I really, really, really try to help them, even if I do the marketing for them, lacks the certainty, and now that you say that, it sort of fell into place for me. It's this belief, it's this, lack of doubt about where you're going and that you will become a success. Because the people who doubt themselves, their company, their choices the most are the ones that simply cannot attract customers. I mean, doesn't matter what they do, doesn't matter what kind of wrapper you put them in, their internal lack of belief kind of just beams through everything else and ruins their entire market.
That's right. That's right. And now, again, we're approaching metaphysics, but there is this thing that people have referred to as the law of attraction, and we can go watch videos about that and read countless books about it. It's a hot topic on the bestseller list and your local bookstore. The bottom line, though, is that we don't get what we want; we get what we are. And that's James Allen, As a Man Thinketh, which, by the way, spectacular book. If you can call it a book, it's more of a pamphlet. It's a very, short book. But chapter 2 alone, I've referred that book to so many people, Igor, because it talks about the effect of thought on circumstances, where we want to see pleasing circumstances. Okay, but we do have to accept that we are the cause for a lot of the circumstances in our life. And certainly, some things we could say, well, what part of that was I responsible for? I'm not sure. Maybe I need to explore that more. But a lot of the things that we experience throughout our day are based on decisions that we've made in the past, which was based on what? Our level of thinking in the past. So it's good and right, I think, to start each day with a blank piece of paper. Certainly, some things are going to be on autopilot. We do have a memory, and we know that yesterday, that thing worked, right? So that thing could be, well, let's see, I ate food, and the body survived. All right, well, let me eat food again today to keep the body running. So that's cool. So I remember that. That's nice. But then, as far as like bigger decisions that I have to make, who's making those decisions right now? Can I hit the reset button and can I start each day with a blank piece of paper to the best of my ability, recognizing that yesterday sets no precedent to what I'm about to experience now? Even if I was a miserable failure up to 5 minutes ago, who's the guy right now who's going to operate this business, who's going to originate this communication, who's going to write this email, shoot this video, whatever? Igor, I've made a lot of money with like video marketing. And I'm also into audio and video production. And I don't know if you know that, but not only have I been a metal fan ever since a teenager, and I'm still waiting to grow out of it. I'm 46 now, but I've also been in the business. Yeah. I've also, been in bands and production. So I like quality recordings and all this. And yet when I look at video marketing, there are times where I've been inspired and I grab, here's my iPhone, and I get one of those handheld monopods. I think people call them selfie sticks now. And I'm walking down the street, walking my dog, and I'm just inspired. I got an idea. I shoot a video. And at the end of it, I give a call to action. Hey, if you're watching this video and you like what you hear, I'm sure somewhere on this page there's something you can click on or whatever, get some more information. Have a nice day. And boom, right? Here come the sales. So what am I attempting to convey with that? What I'm attempting to convey is that the person who is operating the business and who is putting out the message, if they are congruent with themselves and they're giving some content, some value that's attractive, again, to their ideal prospect, invariably it's going to work. Right? There are people, like I said before, who will be attracted to a personality and repelled by another. That's fine. You got to put yourself out there with that certainty, with that confidence, right? That is unshakable in that where you're going. And that's, again, the only reason why anyone would follow you is because you've got a destination and it's known to you. And you can hopefully save people some time, right? I tell people who I work with, clients and students and stuff, I say, look, my job is to help save you 25 years of, reading philosophy like I had to do. I mean, you could still read it. That's cool. But I'd like for you to reach your goals faster than I reached mine. So, I mean, that's progress, right? That's part of, being a leader. Hopefully the next generation is more effective than the previous. So I would say do something like that. And I guess I brought up the whole production value thing because, walking down the street with an iPhone on a stick, walking my dog, with the sun is in a bad angle and the sound is bad and all this, and it still works, right? So it's more about the messenger. And it's more about that vibe, again, getting a bit, a bit non-physical here. It's more about between the lines. What do people hear? By the way, as a little tip for all your readers, if you're into videos, do something while you're moving. Right. I know some people shoot videos in their car. And in this case, I like to walk my dog when I'm shooting videos. But in both cases, we're seeing what? We're seeing movement. We're seeing a motion picture. People pay money to go see motion pictures. Why? Because people are doing something. It's not just a talking head, right? You can only do so much of that. Typically, a talking head is going to be accompanied by some sales aids, right? Some slides. That's called a webinar. Okay. But if you're shooting a marketing video or something, some follow-up, where you're giving, some of the truths and profundities about life, go walk down the street while you do it. What does that say to the viewer? That says, I'm a doer. Look, I'm moving. See the landscape moving past me? I'm a mover. I'm a doer, right? You didn't have to say, look, folks, I'm a doer. You demonstrated it, right? You're busy. You're successful.
Yeah, I bet if you say I'm a doer, they're going to be like, oh, man. He's vanilla. I'm not going to.
Right. Oh, look at me. I'm such a doer as I sit here and talk. But no, look, I'm busy. I'm successful. I got this inspiring idea. I'm going to share it as I do other things in my life. I'm living my life, man. That's attractive. Do you have time to walk your dog? Do you know, Igor, when I first got into this whole industry, I had a situation where I was working, like I said before, 80 hours a week, and I didn't have time to walk my dog. I mean, anybody, some guy with a standard job should have time to go walk his dog. And I like my dog. I want to go walk my dog. And I had no time to do that. That was just more fuel on the fire. So maybe that's why I choose to shoot videos while I walk my dog now, to demonstrate, look at my lifestyle, man. I get to walk my dog. Now, other people, it's, look at the Lamborghini or whatever. That's cool too, right? I've done those videos. I've had the Bentley and the Maserati and all this. Cool, nice, and enticing for people to look at. But something as subtle as, I get to choose my time. And part of what I choose to do is walk my dog down the street and at the same time deliver value to anyone who cares to listen. I think that's just cool. So find ways to create meaning out of this stuff where people quite often, they may be just looking at the surface information, but see what it means to you. In fact, grab a swipe file. This is a beautiful thing. Igor, I'm on your list and I get your emails, which are very well written, by the way. And I sometimes, in fact, I'll read an email not only as a consumer, like here's somebody who wants to make an offer. Okay, that's cool. We all get to be consumers too. But I also read it with a different pair of eyes that says, now, if I was originating this message, how would I say this? Right? What does this mean? How can I morph something like this and grab a line like you liked, where I said, don't be vanilla or you'll be ignored. Okay, that's cool. That's yours now, right? You can say it a different way. You can say it the same way.
Say it.
Yeah,
I mean, you can expect a subject line, don't be vanilla, in your inbox.
Good. Just make sure you got all my links in there. But the point is the idea is that we're not just consumers, we're producers, right? And if we're entrepreneurs, then we probably should be producers more often than we're consumers. So whenever you get a sales pitch, and you probably get 10 million of them in your inbox every day, keep the ones you like. Right? If you liked it enough to open it, keep it just for the sake of the subject line. If you actually clicked on the offer or something, oh my goodness, now the email body's got to be pretty good. Keep the whole email. And you create the swipe file. And in fact, myself and my partner in Business Labs, we're coming out with a product that is market research product, like what's working now in the marketplace, websites, emails, all the, like a mega swipe file that's constantly growing. And so something like this, again, the main point is that you look at it with the eyes of a producer. Like if I had to go sell this now, is this what I would do with this? So not just a consumer, be the producer. And, in the space, and again, I suspect that a majority of your listeners are in the solopreneurship, entrepreneur from home business space.
Absolutely.
Right. So if that's the case, quite often, and this may sound critical or condemnatory, but I think I'm just stating the obvious. Quite often, people come into this space with an employee mindset. and to extricate themselves from those patterns that have set in over however many years of being told what to do by a corporate agenda or a boss or whatever. It's not necessarily easy to pull themselves out of that mindset and to deliver themselves into the more causative entrepreneurial mindset. It's a big shift. And, it's one where we accept more responsibility for our own thinking and our own behaviors. Of course, we're gaining more control. With more responsibility comes more control. But the way to accept more responsibility, and I think this is the core of it and where a lot of people are at, the way to accept more responsibility and thereby gain more control is to learn something, is to gain knowledge. That is the basis upon which we can be more effective in our life, be more causative in our life, have more freedom and control in our life by accepting responsibility because we know how to. And that's where we get into the personal growth, which I think is what I started with this whole conversation. The personal growth, studying. People have asked me, Igor, John, how did you become a great author or a speaker or whatever? I was like, well, I've read a lot of books. I've been to lots of seminars. I didn't invent these words, right? There's a dictionary. They existed before me, but I've loaded my guns. I got lots of good ammo, lots. And so when, like right now, right, I'm running on 4 hours of sleep. We started this interview at 6:45 a.m. my time. And you can ask me one question and I can talk for however long I've been talking. How did that happen? Right? Well, I've had 25 years to prepare. So load your guns, my friend. That's the thing is what you put in is going to come out. And it should be something really, really compelling for people. Hopefully what I just said was compelling, Igor. I don't know. We'll see.
Oh yeah, for sure. I've been taking notes. I got a A4 sheet of paper, both sides, and I'm gonna make sure to transfer it to my Evernote because there's a ton to investigate. I'm gonna definitely go back and read some of the books you mentioned for sure. And the concept of certainty, it was a big light bulb for me. Although I wasn't aware of it consciously, but I do it in my business, of course. But
Right.
now that you articulated it for me, and I appreciate you for that. So, John, you got the Good for Business podcast. What's that show all about?
Oh, it's everything that's good for business. Basically, it's myself, my business partner, Tony Rush, in Business Labs. We've got several companies, Business Labs Pro, My Inspired Media. We just launched our Predictable Income Academy, which you can check out at predictableincomeacademy.com. That podcast, though, is just our own ramblings about things that we've discovered from a principle standpoint. And sometimes a how-to, nuts and bolts, but quite often those are in our actual courses, right, where we got to show people stuff and all this. But it's a conversation, not unlike this one, where we share our ideas. And you were on there recently. In fact, you were one of the most recent episodes, as I say this. And we get to expose people to some of our best thinking, which hopefully is fruitful for them as well and is good for their business. And interestingly, when I came up for the title of that podcast, I was like, there's no way that's available. There's no way. Somebody's already doing a good for business podcast. Hey, this is the podcast that's good for business. And sure enough, nobody was doing it. So now I'm doing it.
That's just too common sense to for anyone to take it. People today, they want to try, they be creative and they want to try and stand out, but Good for Business just makes perfect sense. Yeah. So I'm assuming the domain is goodforbusiness.com?
Goodforbusinesspodcast.com, or of course, you just get it on iTunes and Stitcher and wherever else you get your podcasts and then listen to Igor's episode, which by the way, Igor is one of our most popular episodes. You crushed it, man. It was great. People loved it.
Cool. Nice. All right, John. So thank you for the second time for waking up early and doing this with me because of the time difference. I appreciate it. This is one for the books, man. Definitely one of my most favorite episodes. You produced more value in the span of the last, 28 minutes than I've seen, some of the people that I've been following for years. Like people who've been in this industry for decades and decades and decades have over an hour of rambling. So thank you so much from myself, from our listeners. And guys, make sure you subscribe to John's and Tony's podcast at goodforbusinesspodcast.com. Thank you for listening to The List Building Lifestyle. Make sure to subscribe on iTunes or Google Play to never miss an episode. Because who knows, just one conversion tactic we share on the show might double your list and double your business. Download the transcript of today's episode and all future episodes at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com. And don't forget to claim your complimentary copy of the Wealthy List Builder Survival Guide at listbuildinglifestyleshow.com/survival. This is Igor Kheifets, and until next time we talk, have a good one.
This is the podcastfactory.com.